My name is Philip Hoyder, and I live on a farm in Wisconsin, where I care for grazing beef cattle. Over the years, I've written over 32 books, but today I want to share a deeply personal story, one that has profoundly changed my life and my understanding of existence itself. It all began on an ordinary morning in October. The air was crisp, and the sun hung low in the sky, painting the pastures in warm hues. My day started like any other. I went out to check on the cattle. This was a routine I had done countless times, walking among them, patting their heads, and speaking to them softly. They were comfortable with me, and I was comfortable with them. But that morning was different. As I approached, something changed. I was still 300 feet away when one of the cows suddenly stood up. She looked at me, ears perked, and then bolted across the field, stopping about 600 feet away to turn and stare back at me. The other cattle followed her lead. They all gathered together, looking at me as if I were a stranger, or perhaps as if they had seen something I couldn't. It was unnerving, but I didn't think much of it at the time. After completing my morning routine, I returned to the house. I had planned to take the car into town for new tires and had an appointment at the local village, about 12 miles away. I decided I would also stop by the fitness center at the hospital for a quick workout. As I drove, a small, seemingly inconsequential decision changed everything. Instead of turning right toward the auto shop, I turned left and headed to the hospital's fitness center. I parked the car, went inside, and greeted the staff. I stretched, warmed up, and started my workout with the arm curl machine. I completed 20 repetitions and stood up. That's when it happened. My forearms began to tingle as though they had fallen asleep. I looked down at my hands, confused. The next moment, everything changed. I found myself no longer in the fitness center, but in a completely different dimension. There's no other way to describe it. I was floating, not in water, but on waves of pure energy. These waves moved through me, carrying a sense of peace that words cannot capture. When I looked at my hands, they were no longer solid, but translucent, as if made of light. Yet this felt completely natural. There was no fear, only a profound sense of calm. Ahead of me was a golden sphere, glowing brighter than anything I had ever seen, like millions of suns packed into one radiant orb. Despite its brilliance, it wasn't blinding. I could have reached out and touched it without harm. This sphere radiated waves of energy, and I knew instinctively that this was the source of all creation. It emanated love, acceptance, and infinite knowledge. This wasn't just light. It was alive, intelligent, and profoundly aware. As I marveled at the golden sphere, I noticed tiny silver lights shooting from its surface in all directions, like sparks from a sparkler. These lights connected to an infinite web, reaching out to countless dimensions and universes suspended in the vastness around me. Each universe, each dimension, was linked to this golden sphere by filaments of energy, pulsing with love and connection. I turned to look behind me, and there was infinity itself. Eternity stretched out in all directions, clearer the farther I looked. I understood that this was the origin of all things, the place where we all come from and to which we all return. In that moment, I realized something profound. Every one of us carries within us the DNA of this divine essence. It's a part of who we are, no matter where we are in the cosmos. Back in the fitness center, EMTs and hospital staff were desperately trying to restart my heart, but I couldn't communicate with them. I wanted to tell them it was okay, that I was happy where I was. but I couldn't. In less than a blink, I was pulled back into my body, returning from the most extraordinary journey of my life. The entire experience lasted only 6 minutes in earthly time, but for me, it felt like centuries. When I woke up, it was confusing. My wife, Mary, was standing at the foot of my hospital bed, rubbing my feet, but I didn't recognize where I was. My body hurt, and everything felt out of place. A clock on the wall read 8 Jaksh, and I thought it couldn't be right. Time doesn't move backward, I thought, but someone explained it was 8 at night. I had been unconscious for hours, and yet it felt like no time had passed at all. In the days and weeks that followed, I struggled to reconcile what I had experienced. I was caught between two worlds, this physical dimension and the eternal one I had visited. Slowly, as my body healed, I began to process what had happened. I started writing down everything I remembered. I didn't share it with anyone at first because I thought no one would believe me. Months later, I finally got an answer to the question that had haunted me since my return. Why had I come back? One night, Mary told me I had spoken in my sleep. She had written down my words. I was told I needed to come back to be a conduit of hope for those who don't have any. That was it. That was my purpose. If I had collapsed in the pasture that morning, no one would have found me in time. Instead, I collapsed in a place where help was immediately available. It wasn't luck, it was intentional. I was brought back for a reason, and that reason was to share what I had learned. I've come to understand that life is not about punishment or suffering. It's about learning. This dimension gives us opportunities to grow, to make choices, and to take responsibility for those choices. Every decision we make shapes our journey, and while we may face consequences, we always have the power to choose our path. I've also learned that our physical bodies are only a part of who we are. They are vessels for our inner essence, our soul. When I was in that other dimension, I realized my body was irrelevant. What mattered was the eternal spark within me, the part of me that exists beyond time and space. Through my experience, I've come to believe that we are all here to learn lessons that can only be learned in this physical form. When our time here is done, we move on to the next phase of our journey. It's an ongoing process, an evolution of the soul. Two things stand out from what I experienced. First, love is the essence of everything. It's the force that binds us all together, the energy that flows from the source to every corner of existence. Recognizing the divinity in everyone we meet is key to understanding our purpose. Second, hope is the pathway that guides us through this journey. No matter how dark things may seem, hope is always available to us if we choose to embrace it. As I began to reflect more deeply on my experience, one particular realization stood out: the immense significance of the choices we make every day. That small decision to turn left instead of right may seem trivial, but it was a moment that altered the course of my existence. It wasn't just a coincidence, it was as if an unseen force had guided me, ensuring I would be in a place where help was available. This taught me that life is filled with moments where we are presented with paths, and while we may not always see the bigger picture, every choice carries meaning. This understanding has shifted how I view my daily life. I've come to believe that even the smallest acts, kindness to a stranger, forgiving someone who has wronged us, or choosing hope over despair, carry profound ripple effects far beyond what we can see. In that other dimension, I witnessed how everything is interconnected. like threads in an infinite tapestry. Each thread represents a choice, an action, or a connection, all interwoven to create the fabric of existence. Another profound realization from my experience is the idea of energy as the foundation of all things. What I felt in that other realm, the waves of energy passing through me, the golden sphere radiating light, wasn't abstract or symbolic. It was real and tangible. Here in this physical world, we often think of ourselves as separate, isolated beings. But in that dimension, it was abundantly clear that separation is an illusion. We are all part of the same energetic field, connected to one another and to the divine source. This realization has transformed how I interact with the world around me. I now see every interaction as an opportunity to exchange energy, positive or negative, and to contribute to the greater whole. It's made me more mindful of my words, my actions, and even my thoughts. Each of us has the power to uplift others simply by choosing kindness, empathy, and love. I've also spent a great deal of time contemplating the nature of time itself. In that other dimension, time didn't exist as we understand it here. It wasn't linear or measurable. It was more like an eternal now. This has changed my relationship with time in my daily life. I no longer feel the same sense of urgency or pressure to do more or achieve more. Instead, I focus on being present in each moment, knowing that the present is all we truly have. This shift has brought a profound sense of peace and clarity to my life. One of the most beautiful aspects of my experience was the overwhelming sense of love and acceptance I felt. It wasn't conditional or earned, it simply was. This has made me question why, in this world, we so often place conditions on love. We withhold it, ration it, or make it contingent on certain behaviors or outcomes. But the love I experienced in that dimension was infinite, boundless, and freely given to all. It has inspired me to try to embody that same unconditional love in my own life, even when it's difficult. This journey hasn't been without challenges. Returning to this dimension after such a transformative experience was disorienting. For months, I felt like I had one foot in this world and one foot in the other. It took time to ground myself, to reintegrate into a reality that now felt so different from what I had known before. There were moments of frustration and confusion, but these too were opportunities for growth. They reminded me that we are here to navigate both the highs and the lows, the joys and the sorrows. One of the questions I'm often asked is whether I fear death after what I've experienced. The answer is no. I don't fear it. In fact, I see it as a transition, not an end. What we call death is simply the moment when our physical body can no longer sustain us, and we return to our true essence. Knowing this has brought a deep sense of peace and freedom. It's not that I seek to leave this world prematurely, but I no longer view death as something to be feared. I've also been asked what people can take away from my experience, especially those who haven't had a similar encounter. My answer is simple. You don't need to have a near-death experience to connect with the divine or to find purpose and meaning in your life. It's all around us, in the beauty of nature, in the love we share with others, and in the quiet moments when we reflect on what truly matters. Lastly, I want to emphasize the importance of hope. Hope is not just an abstract idea or a fleeting emotion. It's a force that can carry us through the darkest times. In that other dimension, I understood that hope is like a light within us, guiding us forward even when the path is unclear. It's a reminder that no matter how difficult our circumstances may be, there is always a way forward. If there's one thing I've learned from my experience, it's this. we are far more powerful, connected, and loved than we often realize. Life is a precious gift, and every moment offers an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to love. My hope is that by sharing my story, others will feel inspired to embrace their own journey with courage, compassion, and a deep sense of purpose.